to have a guest speaker for the this session, Miss Sisi Ahigbe. Um, she will be, I'll just read bio very briefly, and then she will take it away. So she is a dynamic DEIA leader with 10 plus years advancing equity across public, non-profit, and healthcare sectors in Canada and the US. As DEIA manager at Girl Guides of Canada, she drives national strategy rooted in belonging and accountability. A law graduate, strategist, and worship leader, Sisi champions healing-centered spaces, inclusive systems, and authentic leadership. And this afternoon, she'll be speaking to us on the sub-theme From Access to Action, Redesigning Economic Systems that Work for Everyone. Please make welcome to our virtual stage, Sisi Aigbe.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I really appreciate it. And I want to wish everyone a good afternoon. Can you all hear me, by the way? I just want to ensure that I'm speaking loud enough. You guys can all hear me?
Loud and clear, Sisi. Loud and clear.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful, awesome. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's really an honor to be here at the Power of Inclusion. And I really want to thank the Council of Nigerian Professionals and the Council of African Professionals for creating this space where dialogue, leadership, and equity meet. So I really, really am very humbled and I don't take this opportunity for granted. So thank you very, very much. And as a diversity, equity, and inclusion leader, there's something that I've learned that's really, really important. Equity is not just about who gets hired or who sits on leadership teams. Equity is about who has the opportunity to build, to grow, and to thrive. And there's nothing that reveals inequity more clearly than our economic systems. Let's be real. This year's theme, The Journey Within and the Impact Beyond, it reminds us that what is built inside of our system, it actually determines the outcomes of our community's experiences. And so today, I actually want to talk about what it means to move from access to action, redesigning economic systems that actually work for everyone. And I want to utilize my perspective from a DEI. I want to utilize a DEI perspective, a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective. So when identifying gaps, we oftentimes talk about financial empowerment. Oftentimes people assume that barriers are personal responsibility. People that don't necessarily understand, inequities, just DI as a whole. They might say, oh, well, you just have to work harder. You need to save more. You need to just know, like, you just have to know. But let's be real. Okay, so I'm not going to dismiss the fact that you still need to work. You still need to save. You still need to seek out knowledge. But inequities are not just about that. It's really about just effort. The system as a whole has actually not been designed to keep that it hasn't been designed for all of us in mind. It hasn't been designed for racialized people, for people with disabilities, even women. Foundationally, especially let's look at Canada as a whole. Canada was actually built on colonialism. When the Europeans came and they overtook indigenous land. As you know, we're situated on unceded and unsurrendered territory. When they built the system that we're living in today, it wasn't with equity in mind. And so I want to kind of start off with looking at some statistics, some financial statistics. So the Canadian Women's Foundation found in 2022 that women are still earning 84 cents for every dollar that men are earning. They also, and then the Ontario Pay Equity found, if you go a little bit deeper, but women with disabilities, that gap is even wider. They have 43% less income, or about 26,000 less annually compared to men without disabilities. And that statistic was founded in 2022 as well. So this is very, very recent stats. And let's take it even deeper, looking at Indigenous women in Ontario. They earn about $25,000 less annually than non-Indigenous men. That's a 39% gap. The Ontario Pay Equity Office also found that. And a stat from this year in exactly 2025 from the TD survey with newcomers. And, many of us are newcomers into Canada. We might be first generation Canadians or immigrants to Canada. Our kids are first generation, sometimes maybe second generation. But 82% report barriers that when applying for credit, that's what they reported those barriers, and that led to housing insecurity, financial stress, and overall limited economic stability. So there's so many barriers that are in place that are systemic. These numbers are not abstract. They are live realities, and they show us that when our systems ignore identity, inequities multiply. So let's look at access versus action. And I told you I was going to speak from the DI lens. So in DI work, we often talk about the difference between access, inclusion, and belonging. So if we're going to define access in a very simple term, access means you're allowed in. Inclusion means you're invited to participate. Belonging means you can thrive and you could lead. But when we're looking at from access to action, especially in the financial standpoint, what does action mean? So let's take it a little bit deeper. So access is entry, action is redesign. So for example, access is opening a bank account. Action is redesigning credit systems so that gig workers, women entrepreneurs, and newcomers aren't automatically excluded. Another example, Access is offering a one-time financial literacy workshop. You know, there might be a financial literacy workshop that you might see, I don't know, scrolling through social media, you click the Zoom link, boom. But Action is embedding financial literacy into schools, youth programs, community centers, places where people frequent regularly, making it part of the system and not just an additive or an extra. I look at myself back when I was in high school, well over a decade, more going on almost two. Um, I remember I was 18 and my birthday's March the 6th. I remember on March the 8th, I received my very first credit card offer. Mind you, I'm out here thinking the bank is giving me free money. I'm in school 5 days a week, 6, 7 hours a day. You're teaching me a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but I know nothing about credit. I thought it was free money. So when my first credit card statement came, I thought the bank was just harassing me. I thought you were giving me free money. And then I graduate, you tell me, okay, go to university. Fortunately, my parents saved up and I had some money to go into university, but they're like, okay, to cover the rest, take out OSAP. They don't really teach you exactly what OSAP is. I'm 18, my frontal lobe hasn't fully developed. So you give an 18-year-old $36,000 for 4 years of money, and you just think, oh, once that money, you see thousands of dollars hit your account every semester, and you're just spending it because I never had financial literacy. And then 6 months after graduation, job or no job, they're out here saying, yeah, $500 every month. You want to pay back. If if financial literacy was embedded into schools back when I was younger, I mean, 5 days a week, I'm sure they could have fit in financial literacy somewhere. But this is a reality of so many young people. They're put into the world without being properly prepared, especially a lot of racialized people. A lot of people, maybe their parents didn't teach them financial literacy because maybe their parents also don't have the best financial literacy. But if you embed it into schools, that's actually what's going to make a difference and cause it to be part of the system. Another example of access versus action. Access is hiring someone with a disability. Action is reforming benefit structures so that working doesn't mean losing support. So somebody with a disability might not be able to work full hours, but they still shouldn't struggle to live because they might not be able to work full hours, but they want to be included within the system. There should still be supports to help them to be able to live at least a decent quality of life. And their disability shouldn't be a barrier. One last example. Access is inviting marginalized entrepreneurs into an accelerator, but action is funding them equitably and changing procurement so their businesses can scale. So here's the key. Access is invitation, action is transformation. Access opens doors, and action rebuilds the house. So what are some practical ways that we could take action? I'll offer a couple. So first, of course, you've heard it multiple times, education, financial literacy that's accessible, multilingual, culturally relevant, and also disability inclusive. So every financial literacy course shouldn't be a one size fits all. There should be a multitude of financial literacy courses that are accessible to people of all different backgrounds, all different socioeconomic statuses, all different abilities and disabilities. Youth should not learn about debt and credit only through painful mistakes like me. When PayPal shut down my PayPal, transparency moment, PayPal shut down my PayPal at 22 because I didn't pay back, I think it was at $100, and I didn't know. Like, these are all things that I had to learn by mistakes. Of course, I'm in a much better financial situation now, but I learned that by mistakes. But a lot of these things could have been, you know, they could have been avoided if I had just learned when I was in school. I spent all those hours in school, the opportunities weren't there. Another practical method of action is mentorship and sponsorship. I'm sure some of these things you're going to hear all the time, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper. It's so important to have advice, but sponsorship is transformative. Leaders, especially leaders like, myself, racialized leaders, or leaders that are in positions, people that look like us that are in positions to actually make the change, we should use our power to open doors for people. We shouldn't just forget that, when we rise, we just forget about those that still are looking for elevation. I do that within my position, but we should open for doors for people like women, for marginalized professionals, for Black entrepreneurs. Another method of action is policy change. A lot of people are like, well, I'm not in politics. How can I advocate for policy change? There's opportunities for these things. There's, you know, there's there's forums to attend places where to attend events where there's members of parliament, members of provincial parliament, city councilors. There's organizations that advocate for these things. Just as and I'm going to go into banks and governments. Just as organizations do DEI audits, banks and governments should also conduct. If you're in this economic space, they should conduct economic equity audits. Let's identify who's being denied. What's the percentage? Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the statistics. Let's get that quantitative data. Who's being left behind? Because without measurement, inequity hides. There's community wealth models, and we should utilize those community wealth models. Across African diasporas, we should learn how to we should learn to work together to communally save. Building communal what's communal, there's a word, the word escaped me, but communal investments, stuff like that. And lastly, accessibility. Economic justice must also work for people with disabilities. Let's look at banking tech. It should be accessible. Benefits must encourage independence, resources, and must be offered in multiple formats. So just to close off what I have to say, here's the truth. Economic justice is not charity. It is strategy. And just as diversity, equity, and inclusion has reshaped how we hire, how we lead and govern, inclusive finances must also reshape how we build communities. So let's not settle for patchwork fixes. We must embed equity into the way that money flows. So I'll leave you with this: the journey within, the impact beyond. If we just redesign our systems with equity, the impact will ripple far beyond individuals. It will also uplift our families, strengthen our communities, and transform generations as a whole. So, from access to action, from survival to self-determination, that is the future we are called to build. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I see people totally agreeing with you in the chat. Yeah, and yeah, thank you. You did mention you talked about financial literacy, and in fact, it's one of our pillars at the CNP. It's embedded in our DNA. It's one of the things we do. There's several programs we do. I think there was a time we did one for seniors and different aspects of financial literacy. So it's in line with what we do here at the CNP. So thank you. You need to go to the chat. She nailed it. This was helpful. Excellent. Thank you so much with 3 exclamation marks. Wow. 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 Thank you, Sisi. And I was trying to take notes again, but you were too fast for me. So you will make me rewatch this, and I don't mind because I mean there are a lot of gems that you were dishing out. So thank you. Thank you very much. It was excellent. Um, Thank you. Okay, do we have questions for Sisi? This is the time to ask your question. I know you probably will see her tomorrow. Yeah, some people said much good nuggets. Yeah, great job, Sisi. Thank you so much for all these great insights. Excuse me. Questions? Or she did such a fantastic job that everybody is just in agreement and there are no questions. Wow, this is a first. Wow, Sisi. This is a first. Just checking to be sure there are no direct questions to me. I thought as much. There's one. What would you recommend youth to do personally to improve their personal financial knowledge? I mean, talking about your experience and what you have gone through, I don't think there's a better person to answer this question. And I will be taking it up with PayPal on your behalf.
Thanks for doing that because I mean, at the same time, it was kind of my fault too because at the end of the day, there's processes and procedures. I just didn't know about it. But I know now, and I haven't made that mistake ever since. But to answer that question, there's so many different platforms. Everybody, I'm like the easiest thing I could say is social media. Media platforms like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And one of the things that I do want to point out is that there's like and even Google, even AI. Let's be real, ChatGPT. You plug something in on ChatGPT, oftentimes ChatGPT, 99.999% of the time they will have the answer. ChatGPT can literally make your budget for you for the month, for the year, it can help you make a 5-year plan. So utilizing technology is the best thing that I could definitely say. Type something in on TikTok. I was trying to learn about was it cryptocurrency? I typed it in on TikTok. I learned about cryptocurrency. I'm a gym person. I built my entire gym routine off of TikTok, creating albums in my phone. So utilizing platforms, there's 30-second clips that can teach you. Watch multiple 30-second clips, take notes, or just pop it in your phone to rewatch before you go to bed. There's all of those types of things that you could utilize. And I'm also going to encourage, the elder generation to also learn some of these platforms because you guys have so much knowledge and deliver this content where the youth are, which is social media. Because we can learn from you, but oftentimes there's this disconnect between the younger generation and the elder generation. And when you want to build that bridge, people kind of have to meet people where they are. So if the younger generation, they're spending so much time on social media, well, older generation, learn about social media. I know you guys are on Facebook, but learn about these things and then go to these platforms, TikTok. It's not very difficult to learn, I promise you. And deliver that content there because we will actually listen. The young people will actually listen to you. So that would be my advice. Utilizing social media, utilizing technology, utilizing AI. Don't shy away from it to obtain that information about financial literacy for sure. And really trying to like find creators that you understand with or that you mesh well with as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. Very well said. Or better still, they can connect with CNP.
And oh yes, connect with CNP too because
Yeah,
CNP they have courses and they have programs to help with financial literacy and they're
yeah,
very, very engaging.
absolutely, absolutely. And you find that people have mentors in all aspects of their lives, but maybe not in their financial aspect, right?
Mhm.
So you might want to get a financial mentor as well. And there are self-help books, there are thousands of podcasts on Spotify and iTunes. I'm listening to one, it's about 500 and something episodes already, talking about how to get out of debt at 30. Just in 30 minutes, they give you nuggets. And, I share all of this amongst my friends, not because we're in debt, but because we shouldn't get to that point where we are now doing like a, a GoFundMe, raising a GoFundMe for you because you're in debt, and all of that. So thank you. Thank you so much. We have put in our chat, in the chat, how to connect with us at CNP. Our email is there, info@cnpngo.a and .ca, and our website. Our email is info@cnpngo.ca, and our website is www.cnpngo.ca. Connect with us, and then we'll be happy to point you in the right directions. Thank you once again, Sisi Akigbe. It's been an amazing pleasure having to share the stage with you this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the program.
Absolutely.